last week we had an incident that I would classify as one of the incidents to have transpired in this season of The Simp. And in this incident that transpired in downtown Chicago, we had over 500 teenagers converge on downtown Chicago for absolutely no reason. And this convergence of 500 teenagers, I believe, is an incident as related to the season of The Simp because it reminds me of the horror movie Night of the Living Dead. And in the horror movie Night of the Living Dead, we had all of these zombies converge on an area looking for food to feast on, which was human flesh. But in this real-life Night of the Living Dead Negroes, we had over 500 teenagers converge on downtown Chicago looking to get economic resources and looking to start trouble in that downtown area. Now, this literal Night of the Living Dead took place, as I believe it, for absolutely no reason due to the way these teenagers was raised. And I've talked in depth about the dysfunctional way we have been raising children over the last 50 years in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I look at this third or fourth generation of teenagers, I see a very troubling trend as related to the way we are raising children. Because for 500 teenagers to converge on downtown Chicago shows that these teenagers have not been raised at all. And that's a troubling trend because before that we had the single mother household, which was producing all of these beta males. And with those beta males, these men had no male life skills or survival skills, and this is why they were participating in a spectrum of violent behaviors. However, with these teenagers, I'm seeing that they're getting no parental involvement, no parental guidance, and this is leading to these teenagers literally looking to themselves to raise each other. And this is what both of my family members who have worked in education have told me about the disturbing trend regarding children being raised in places like daycare and what they've seen coming into the colleges these days. And what they're seeing these days are children who have been raised by their peers, and because they have been raised by their peers, they only know how to associate with their peer as an authority figure, and they follow the lead of each other and don't submit to any male or female authority figures. So this is why you will see a group of Night of the Living Dead going to converge on a place like downtown Chicago for absolutely no reason. And what's going on here with the way these children are being raised is that these Negro children of the corn, these Night of the Living Dead Negroes, what they have become are a group of zombies, and this group of zombies literally has a pack mentality. And like a pack of wild animals, they will just go wherever they want to go, converging, using their strength in numbers to go and take whatever they want. And this is a very troubling trend because this is a literal powder keg for a riot to go on. Because thank God that the police department was able to disperse this mob of 500 teenagers, because all it took was for one of these individuals to get shot or killed by the police, and we could have had Chicago on fire. Now, this one incident, a lot of people, they were scared, but this has been part of a trend as related to this third or fourth generation of Negro children of the corn, because I have read that this type of incident has transpired in other cities like Philadelphia and many other cities all across the country in numerous articles, and this has been going on for some time now. And this is something many people are dismissing, but they're not seeing the imminent and present, clear and present danger that goes on when you have a bunch of children who have a pack mentality similar to Lord of the Flies, in that classic book. Because when you've got children raising children, what you're going to have is them thinking that everything that they do is right, and then them having the justification to go out here and do whatever they please. What we saw in downtown Chicago showed a complete collapse of the American family, a complete collapse of the American family structure, and a complete collapse of both male and female authority, showing us how devastating the man crisis is and how this man crisis could easily turn into a war situation. Because when you have children who have not learned how to follow male or female authority figures or follow the structures as related to the family unit, you have children who have become practically feral, and these children have learned how to live with this pack mentality where they rely on each other for survival and not learning how to survive within the paradigm and dynamics of the family structure, or learning how the family structure works. So when I look at Chicago and I look at incidents that have transpired in other cities where you have these packs of kids roaming around, this is a troubling trend, and this is something most people aren't paying attention to because they are so caught up in their little 9-to-5 jobs, which have now turned into 9 to midnight jobs, because many of these corporations, they are just hiring people on the cheap, and those people are working 12, 14-hour days, and they have no time to raise their children and no time for the family. So those children are not being taught those lessons in life that they need to survive. They're not being taught the discipline by the father. They're not being taught structure by the father, nor are they being taught values by the mother, because both the mother and the father are working, and no one is home raising the children outside of daycare providers, and daycare providers can only teach children academics, and in some poor quality daycare centers, children are getting no academics. They're just sitting there playing with each other and learning from each other, and they're learning without the structure of adult authority. And because they are learning without the structure of adult authority, this is how your children are learning this pack mentality, and they're becoming these Night of the Living Dead Negroes, people who just follow the lead of each other because this is the social order they have learned, and they are literally like zombies going wherever they want, and literally like a horde going to terrorize wherever they want to terrorize, because they have not been taught anything as related to boundaries. They have not been taught anything as related to value. They have not been taught anything as related to discipline. And a lot of people will sit there and get upset and say, that this is going on. But the problem is they have nowhere to go because no one taught them any sort of direction. No one taught them any sort of structure. They gave them whatever they want. And now that they've been given what they want, they feel that they are entitled to take whatever they please. And this is a very troubling trend as related to these kids out here, because a lot of them, they just don't feel like they want to be a part of society anymore, because society has abandoned these children. And that's why we've got these Night of the Living Dead Negroes getting ready to possibly turn at the streets of major cities into a horror movie where we may see bloodshed sometime this year. Because if you've got 500 kids in an area, all it takes is for one police officer to have a skirmish with one of those individuals, and you may have a possible riot on your hands. And this is something that people are taking for granted, because we are seeing more and more of these mobs coming together in cities like Philadelphia and many other cities, and people are not really taking this seriously or thinking about taking a constructive action to deal with these Night of the Living Dead who are walking the streets, and walking the streets all because they just want to, because a lot of these kids, they're going together, and that's why we're getting these flash mobs which go into stores and literally rob the entire store in one wave. And we're seeing these packs of 10, 12, 13 kids together because there are no parents giving these children the guidance they need. There are no parents giving them the support they need. The parents are either too busy in the street chasing their lives, or they're too busy on a job. So when I look at American society, I'm seeing no balance. And because we have no balance as related to our lives, this is why we're seeing 500 kids going into Chicago, because downtown Chicago, looking for economic resources because they were not given their emotional needs being met by their parents. So their parents gave them economic resources, so they're looking to get more resources. So they're looking to take whatever they want because they're not being given the intangibles that will make them balanced human beings. So this is a real commentary on the American lifestyle and how completely out of whack it is in America, because at one time people worked 9 to 5 and then they went home, and usually after they went home they had time for things in their own life. But because we've had these 3 generations of beta males, many of these people in these corporations, they're extremely insecure, and they feel that they have to be on these jobs all the way until 10 or 11 o'clock at night in order to feel productive, not understanding that the longer you sit in office, it doesn't mean that you're going to be more productive. Because I myself, as a writer, I know that there are times when I will sit in front of a computer for hours and I won't have anything, and then sometimes I'll get in put my fingers to the keyboard, and I'll have an entire story in 4 days, and sometimes that's how it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But when it comes down to these beta males and these beta females, they try to force things, and because they force things, they are winding up breaking our civilization, breaking our society, and our children are the ones getting lost. And because there's nobody there to lead them and guide those children, this is why they are forming these literal human wolf packs and going to converge on these areas like we saw with these 500 kids in downtown Chicago. Because when there is no parent in the home to really give that discipline, to really give that structure, to really give that order, all your children are going to learn from each other is chaos. And that's what we saw possibly getting ready to happen sooner rather than later in one of these big cities. And what we have in this situation is a powder keg, and this is a powder keg that could possibly explode here in these United States. And if it explodes, it's going to be extremely devastating to this country, because when you have hundreds of beta males in one group, if they all explode at the exact same time, there is no telling what type of damage they can do in a group. Imagine your worst mass shooting or your worst act of beta male violence, and multiply that by 500. That's what you could have possibly had in Chicago, and that's possibly what you can have if one of these mobs just has an incident go bad. You could have a possible incident that could set off a riot that could turn into a literal war in that city. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to learn more about the dysfunctional behaviors that your beta males participate in, and the behaviors that males participate in when there is no father to give them guidance, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback, in Kindle format, and you can pick it up in e-readers like Smashwords, Barnes & Noble, and the iBookstore. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.